Hey guys, Emmanuel here, and before I jump into this video, I just want to ask you guys to give me the HBO special, and that is the Help a Brother Out. And you can do that by hitting the subscribe button and leaving a like underneath this video. It helps me out a lot. Aside from that, I'm here to tell you guys that the Toronto Raptors are actually better than you think, and actually they are better than I expected them to be. Last night, the Toronto Raptors moved to 3-2 as they beat the 76ers and handed them their fourth loss of the season. And the reason this is significant is because the 76ers are supposed to be one of the more prominent teams in the entire league, let alone the Eastern Conference. They're supposed to be one of the title contenders, or one of the big names like the Brooklyn Nets, the Milwaukee Bucks, or the Boston Celtics. And furthermore, this is the same 76ers team that knocked the Toronto Raptors out of the playoffs last May. So to me, this is significant because either one or two things has happened here. Either the Toronto Raptors got way better in the offseason, or the 76ers got way worse in the offseason. And I don't think the 76ers got worse. And here's why. In the offseason, the 76ers added PJ Tucker to their starting lineup, a guy who was very instrumental in the success of the Miami Heat last season, and the season prior to that was very instrumental in the Milwaukee Bucks. And prior to that, he was very, very good when he played with James Harden on the Houston Rockets. And speaking of which, James Harden, in my eyes, got way better than what he was last year. Last year, James Harden looked like a shell of himself. He looked like he was washed. Everyone called him washed. I called him washed. But this year, we are seeing James Harden return to his normalcy, return to the player that we know him to be. He is making step-back shots. He is making passes that we know him to be. He is the James Harden that we remember from the Houston Rockets. So when I consider all those factors, coupled with the fact that the Toronto Raptors beat the 76ers, who are supposed to be one of the best teams in the league, to me, it clearly points to the fact that the Toronto Raptors got better from what they were last year. And I think that's true because if you look at their leading scorer, Pascal Siakam has improved. Last year, Pascal Siakam averaged 22 points per game, and I even commented on this point that in order for the Toronto Raptors to be really good, in order for your team in general to be good, you cannot have your leading scorer average less than 25 points per game. Well, this year, in the 5 games that Pascal Siakam has played, he's averaging 25.2 points per game, a clear jump of 3 points from last year. Now, I understand it's only been 5 games, and comparing a full season to 5 games isn't the same, but still, when I look at Pascal Siakam, it's clear to me that he's playing well and playing better than his play last year. And furthermore, that goes for the rest of the team. Trent Jr. last night was the leading scorer on the floor against the 76ers. That tells you the Toronto Raptors have guys that can step up and supplement scoring when Pascal Siakam or Fred VanVleet doesn't have one of those huge big nights. Because when you look at the box score from last night against the 76ers, the starting 5 kind of distributed the scoring between them. There wasn't really one guy that scored the majority of the points except for Trent Jr., who scored 27 points, right? But aside from that, it was 20 points for Pascal Siakam, 15 for OG Anunoby, 16 for Scotty Barnes, 15 for Fred VanVleet. All 5 starters scored 10 or plus points, right? With 2 of them scoring 20 or plus points. So that's really good. It tells me that they're playing as a unit, and I love that about this team. And furthermore, Scotty Barnes, in my eyes, has really played to the expectations I set for him prior to the season starting. Because in the offseason, Scotty Barnes showed to me a lot of progress, a lot of promise, as he was seen training with James Harden and putting on 10 pounds of extra muscle. And it is showing live right before our eyes right now. Because a few nights ago, the Toronto Raptors played the Miami Heat. Mind you, the Miami Heat went to the Eastern Conference Finals last year, right? So they were playing the Miami Heat, and the game was going pretty well. It was pretty even until, unfortunately, Scottie Barnes went up for a layup and landed in an awkward position, and he sprained his ankle. And from that moment on, when he left the game, everything crumbled and went downhill for the Toronto Raptors. They ended up losing the game to the Miami Heat, but here's the kicker. 2 nights later, the Toronto Raptors played the Miami Heat again. But this time, luckily, Scottie Barnes was healthy enough and recovered from his ankle sprain, was able to play the game against Miami Heat. And lo and behold, the Toronto Raptors beat the Miami Heat. And this told me two things. Number one, Scotty Barnes did really improve in the offseason and is better this year than he is last year. Number two, the Toronto Raptors need Scottie Barnes in order to be very successful. That is, by in itself, evident of his improvement from last season, because they needed Scottie Barnes to beat a team that they had lost to 2 nights prior. So yeah, with the way that the Toronto Raptors have started off the season by beating the team that knocked them out of the playoffs last season and beating a team that went to the Eastern Conference Finals, tells me that the Raptors are good and better than what they were last year and are exceeding my expectations. Dare I say it, I think the Raptors are better than the Brooklyn Nets and other presumed title contenders like the Philadelphia 76ers or the Miami Heat, because I watched the Brooklyn Nets play the Milwaukee Bucks last night, right? And it wasn't pretty. The Bucks had their way with the Brooklyn Nets, and to me, I started to second guess. I started to see, I'm like, wait a minute. The Toronto Raptors are better than this team. Were they to go up against this team in a 7-game series, I would pick the Toronto Raptors. I think they would fare very well. And the same thing with the Philadelphia 76ers. Like right now, if you had them play against the Toronto Raptors in a 7-game series, I think the Raptors would win. And so I think the Raptors are definitely better than what they were last year. And so if we extrapolate this season right now to a full 82-game season, and we are in April, I can see the Toronto Raptors ending up with a record of 51-31 and being the 3rd seed overall in the Eastern Conference, which is better than what they were last year when they ended up with a record of 48-34, which netted them the 5th seed. So yes, I think the Toronto Raptors this season could be the 3rd seed in the Eastern Conference, right behind teams like the Boston Celtics and the Milwaukee Bucks. And I think they're better than the 76ers and better than the Miami Heat and better than the Brooklyn Nets. Teams that are presumed better than them in mainstream media, those teams are presumed better than the Toronto Raptors, but I don't think that's the case. But yes, guys, those are just my thoughts. Those are my reasons for why I think the Toronto Raptors are better than you think. If you like this kind of content, then this is the channel for you. Make sure to hit the subscribe button, leave a like, and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And aside from that, see you next time, kids.